All right, and welcome back to No Budget. Now we are going to interview filmmaker Kenan Demirsay.
Nice.
Is everybody impressed that I said his name?
Got it right.
Okay.
I'm impressed.
All right, welcome to the show, Kenan.
Very much. Thanks.
The reason why we have you here is you just recently finished a film called Falling, which we kind of want to talk about. Let's tell us about yourself, Kenan. Like, what's your background? What got you into filmmaking?
Well, when I was younger, I was kind of into, writing and stuff like that. So I decided to go back to college and I took up a course in film and television. And so I did a couple of shorts there. And yeah, I've always been writing. It's always something that I've been doing. And so, I'm always someone who has a notepad jotting down ideas here and there. Things that you observe on the streets, things that you observe about society, psychology, and so on. And, Falling, I suppose, is the last thing I've did, but it's kind of, it's a long process of, I suppose, looking at the world. I suppose that's what everyone does who's kind of doing what we do, is we see things and things that we'd like to put, on paper, or we'd like to present to the world, and that's kind of where it's from.
Yeah. And with that, because I did notice, it's very inner city, and another
Sure.
short of yours that it is very inner city.
Yeah.
Is that?
It's just the budget. I wanted to shoot something, set in 20, well, it's almost 2020 now, Jesus Christ. Set in the future or something like that, but the budget restrictions, didn't call for it. So
But it's very contemporary Falling and very slice of life. It has that kind of whole feel of it.
yeah, it is. So I wanted to kind of, a lot of the time you'll hear something like, don't put a scene into a film that doesn't add to the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
You always hear that when you're writing something, and to a big extent that's true, and it's perhaps a criticism I have of myself in the edit, and it does detract in some ways from the actual drama of a story. But if you're interested in cinema verite, documentary and stuff like that, you will see that there are things that happen in front of the lens that have no direct relevance to a story arc, and that's also part of life, and those type of things do have an effect on the protagonists or the characters in your work. And so that was something I kind of wanted, at the start of the film, which we'll probably get into shortly.
There's a scene where there's two people fighting outside that has no direct relevance really to what's kind of going on. But I put it in there because it shows a slice of the world, and it shows that there's a kind of there's also another strand, let's say, of a kind of the absurdity of things, and there's no direct relevance to everything as well. So I kind of wanted to just play out a chunk of life as it was, not per se as how it fits into a story arc.
Right.
And so
That was kind of one of the main reasons I kind of followed that approach.
And also what's nice about that is it gives you a sense of the space, of the environment, the atmosphere.
That's exactly
it just
right,
layers
yeah.
on more. It's not just the central narrative. There's also things going on around it. And I think that puts the characters into a world,
Sure, yeah.
that feels like it's living and breathing.
Did you have a problem? Was it difficult then for casting to find the right characters within that world? I know for me, living here in Ireland, the accent is, anyone I talk to is from different places in Dublin, and
Yeah.
with the film, since it is kind of an inner city Dublin, and very distinct accent there, and finding the roles.
It's hard because well, when you're doing your auditions and stuff like that, I'm not going to say all actors are like this, but there's a huge swathe of actors who are in the upper middle class kind of bracket, or upper class people, and they're coming in, they're trying to do an inner city accent, and all right, bud, how's it? And you're just like, it's not working exactly. There's a certain, let's say, a certain tone. There's a certain way of carrying yourself if you've grown up in a working class environment, and you have to be kind of socially up. There's a certain kind of street wise thing going on there that you can't just teach automatically. So that was something that we were certainly aware of, and certainly, you know, I was aware of. So yeah, we tried to get as many people as we could who had experience of, like, you know, like myself, I'm from a working class background, so I knew that when you see someone on the screen that doesn't convey that, then the audience is going to be a bit suspect. You know, they're going to suspect things. You know, and so it's not a good place to start your story from. So we tried our best to do that, and we got a couple of like one of the actors, the young girl in the film, for example, Anya. She was from those particular apartments in Dublin.
Okay.
And I think she was fantastic in the film. I think she was.
And then did you find her when you were scouting the area out? Or?
We actually went around from house to house in the apartment block there.
Mm-hmm.
We went from we did a door-to-door thing, and she was her family lived in one of the houses there, and like I think there was a few kids in the house there that we could have used, but she was certainly the best, you know, the most suitable for one of the roles, and we took her on board, and like, you know, we had absolutely no regrets whatsoever.
And so it was like, hey, do you got any little girls here that want to be in a film that we're making?
I think our producer actually knocked on the door. So
Can I film your daughter?
That's okay.
yeah, so direct all further, you know, like criminal inquiries to
the producers.
Yeah.
Nice. And then we'll get into the actual film itself just a little bit more. But I do know it was you made the film a couple years ago, and then
2 years ago,
and then it just recently was finished.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about kind of the
process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I actually moved to London not too long after. Well, we had the main, I suppose, delay in the post-production process was the editing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I had given it to somebody who had another project, got a job, and he had to ditch the project. Then I was looking for an editor in London, and I found one in London. And we had a process of, you know, back and forth, and that was good while I was in London. But then I had to move back to Ireland. And so it became a process of, you know, contacting someone by email. And so I would get an email that would have, you know, like a time code.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be a list of things. And then I would have to write a whole list of things back. And it was a very laborious kind of process, and it took an incredible amount of time. And things still, especially in the climax, when you were talking about, you know, I think Tarantino said it, you know, like composers or whatever have like a note. We have a frame. Filmmakers have a frame on which to hit. And tempo is incredibly important. So what we were trying to do in the climax was a series of, it was basically an amalgam of the whole film, the thematics of the film coming together. And to get that right, you really needed to have someone beside you. And it wasn't really working doing it, you know, long distance. So we brought it back to Ireland, and I actually finished it off the project myself, you know. And yeah, we still had a few things to do with sound, so that's probably why it took so long.
Okay,
as long as it did, you know, so it was a bit messy. But, you know, these things you learn, and the next time around, you know, I'm going to have that editor right beside me, you know, keep them in my back pocket just to make sure.
Makes sense. I mean,
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
sitting there.
It's difficult to do it across the internet.
Yeah.
You know.
And with, like, you know, low budget and no budget films, like,
Yeah.
it's hard to find, you know, somebody who can do that and all that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. All right,
So
cool.
I think now we will show a clip
All right, and then talk
of
about
Falling. Here it is.
What the fuck? Get out of my fucking house!
Get out of me fucking way, you dozy bitch, or I'll fucking thump the head off you. Where's your boyfriend?
I don't know.
You got any money, huh?
No,
Are you sure? Well, when's he due back?
I don't know, this evening.
I'm gonna have a look around, okay? If we ain't in this house, you've got a big fucking problem.
What's this about?
Your boyfriend, he owes us 6 grand.
I told you there was nothing here.
One way or the other, you better get that money to me today, or I'll burn this fucking house down with you and your kids in it.
This has not got to do with them.
I don't care. You're fucking paying. And tell your boyfriend when you see him, he's a fucking dead man. And I want you to tell him, we'll be coming back around here later and stripping this house bare if he doesn't have that money by 5 o'clock. Do you understand?
Fuck you.
All right, welcome back. That was the preview of Falling. So let's talk about the film itself. The actress in it. I know you specifically wanted her for this role. Is that right? Like, and it took a while to get her. Was that that's the story behind it?
Sheena is her name?
Yeah.
Sheena.
Shauna.
Shauna. Yeah.
Okay.
What's her last name? Shauna
Kerslake.
Kerslake.
Yeah.
Shauna Kerslake.
No, we were having trouble finding an actor for that particular role. So I don't know. We were looking around, you know, obviously the usual kind of places, you know, agents and so on. And then I was walking home actually one day on my way to Smithfield, and I saw a poster, and she was in another play. I think it was Bruised Clouds or something like that. And I saw the face, and I thought that's Jill.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tried to get in contact with her representatives and so on, and we managed to do that. And luckily for us, she was available and you know, came down for an audition, and we thought she was great. So yeah, we went ahead with her, you know. So.
And she really carries it extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really, really strong.
Yeah, she's a great actress. I think she's working on something now. She's still doing, like, you know, working. She was in Kirsten Sheridan's film Dollhouse as well, so that did quite well. And yeah, no, she's a great actress. Yeah.
Nice. Yep. Okay. So
Well, we should probably talk about the origin of the story and how the whole thing began.
The origins of the story. Okay, that's an interesting one. So it's when you ask, this is going to sound pretentious, but when you ask any filmmaker, you know, where an idea from a story comes from, it always starts as kind of like, for me at least, and for a lot of people I suppose as well, as a kind of an urge to do something. You know, it's I don't know, one of the Russians or something like that said it starts with an itch. One of the Russian writers says it starts with an itch, and this idea, I think, came from, there was a woman that had passed away in one of the housing complexes that I knew of, a young woman who had a family, and I thought that the story was tragic, and I wanted to kind of tell that in some way. It wasn't her story, but it was her situation, you know. And so I wanted to kind of to explore that further, and it obviously comes as well from a kind of my background as well, you know, the things that I kind of saw growing up, and
So you were
and
kind of
people in-
loosely basing some of the themes of the film on real experiences?
kind of real experiences. It's like a lot of things, I suppose. It's, you know, you see something and you kind of change it to your ends, I suppose. So it's not a true story by any stretch of the imagination, but it's based on people that you know, I suppose, with any kind of drama work that you work on. It's kind of based on characters that you know or have some idea about. And so that's kind of what it was based about. And then when I got writing, it was just a matter of just writing it. I think I wrote it all in about an hour.
Really?
I wrote the whole thing, yeah, I wrote like 12 pages or 15 pages in about an hour or two. And then, you know, the rewriting took ages. But the first splurge of writing was just like bang, knocked it out in about an hour and a half or something like that.
did you tweak it, like once you got the actors in the role and you were doing the read-throughs? Were there many changes based on that?
Yeah, we didn't do many like read-throughs or rehearsals per se. We did some of that, but it wasn't changed that much, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
For the final thing.
And there's a lot of like Dublin inner city colloquialisms and things. So was there a certain degree of improv from the actors, or just tweaking of certain lines here and there where they go their own way with it?
No, it was mostly, you know, what was in the script, kind of what was said. There were one or two kind of small changes, I think, that were made here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty much as it was in the script, you know.
And the dialogue is really real. You know, it's incredible how you managed to get that to sound like.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't. A lot of it sounds almost like a mumblecore film to a degree. You know.
Like a what film, sorry?
Those are movies that don't really have a script. They have an
Okay.
outline generally, and the actors just have to bring
A
their own thing.
mumblecore.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm learning something today.
Yeah, it's a style of filmmaking.
A brave one.
When we,
Or-
when we were watching the film, one of the things we were really impressed with was the cinematography on it. Like, so how did you find your DOP and some,
Well, it was through Dublin Filmmakers Group. It's run by a few guys. You know, Cal Feeney was someone who the whole process was that Dublin Filmmakers Group they have a thing every year or every couple of months that they open up for submissions of scripts, and you know they choose a script which they think they can bring forward, and mine was the one selected, and so yeah, it was basically then trying to source the crew from the group itself, and so you know Billy Kinsella was someone who had worked for news agencies and so on like that, doing professional work in Dublin, and we brought him in. We wanted to get a kind of gritty, kind of documentary kind of type feel to the thing, and yes, Billy certainly did that for us.
And with the group, so was it? I mean, how did you go about funding it then? Like,
Yeah, well, this is a no
it
budget.
is a no budget show, so.
Well, we didn't have much of a budget, but we
Yeah.
did. We went down the one of the traditional routes is like the crowdfunding, and we also had a quiz night as well, which was good. I think my team won. That was a bit rigged. I brought in some ringers from my college days in film and television, and we won. But no, so we did a quiz night, and we did the crowdfunding as well.
So that's good though. I mean, it goes to show that you can make a good quality film.
Yeah.
Sourcing people from groups that you know and finding the right people
Sure.
to work with and that kind of stuff. So that's great.
How long did it take to shoot?
I think it took about 5 days
Okay.
to shoot. Yeah, in total, and there was one or two kind of second photography, second unit stuff that we had to do as well outside.
And what's the plan with the film going forward?
Well, actually, I was working on the film last night, believe it or not.
Okay.
We showed it to the cast and the crew and so on recently, and there was one or two issues I still saw with it. Like as with most things, you always want to tweak it and change it, and you just someone take it off my hands before. You know what I mean? It's like you constantly want to finish it.
Yeah. The painter that's always
But there was a few things that I really needed to kind of to work on, especially with the sound, and so I added like a bit of a mini score, let's say at the start, because it seemed a little bit kind of flat, and so I did a few tweaks on that. But it's just the future of the film. Hopefully, we just put it out to the festivals, and it was a piece for myself. I wanted to create a solid piece of drama. I think it's good for most aspiring filmmakers. Let's say if they want to get into the feature industry, if you can create drama, if you can create like believable drama in like a 20 minute format or something like that, it's not beyond the stretch of imagination to say to a film company, give me a small budget to make a feature film, because you can work with actors. You can work with a time for you can work to a schedule and so on. So it's a step up for aspiring filmmakers. So that's kind of something that we want to do. Also, it's going to be hopefully great for the actors involved themselves to show that they can really push themselves and commit themselves to a piece of drama that's worthwhile.
And when you showed it to the actors and the crew and everything, what was their reception?
They were quite happy with it. The actors themselves, now I haven't had a chance to speak to many of them, but certainly the producers and the people who we work with, like they were quite pleased or whatever. It's hard for me to say that. I can't really speak for them.
They're going to be like, oh my god, it's awful.
They're not gonna. Well, whatever this, they're not going to tell me it's going to be crap. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure. You have to ask them.
All right, so I think we're getting close to wrapping up. So I guess due to the purpose of the show, like anything you do differently or any advice for anything you learned that you want to throw out there for people watching the show?
I'd say one of the biggest things for, you know, a short film is to always keep an eye on the tempo of your film, like, because, you know, a lot of the time you see a short film and halfway through it or something, like, there'll be a kind of a lull or whatever, and you know, certainly criticisms that I still have of the work that I've done. So always keep an eye on the tempo. I would say that the script and obviously your talent are the most important things, you know. And yeah, and try and enjoy the process, and you know, talk about what you believe in. One thing that I should say is when you're trying to create a story, one thing that I've learned from this whole process, when you're trying to create a story, sometimes it's better for the story to find you, not to go and try and construct something from the base up, because what you'll tend to do is you'll create something that's built on a kind of artificial base, and it's constructed out of cliche and things that are just out of your imagination. If you look for a story somewhere that's almost fully formed and try and be authentic to that, try and bring that to the screen as it is, you might come out with something that's certainly a lot more realistic and a lot kind of authentic in the long run.
Grounded in reality. In
grounded in
other words.
reality.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and
very
nice
welcome.
talking to you, and
Thank you.
good luck with the film. And all right, as always, be sure to subscribe to No Budget for more interviews with fantastic filmmakers.
Like Kenan
and-
Demirsay.
Like Kenan Demirsay, and or any of the other awesome stuff we do on this channel. All right, thanks.
Thanks, guys.